En adier ni ka jaduong' osewei to pek nyaka bedie.
Kane useya gik moko mane onyalo timo kanyachiel, koro idwa time kendo, koro ok en tich mayot.
Pek bedoga kapo ni oweyi ka nyithindo tindo, pek bedo kar skul, kaka gidwa chiemo, ji nyalo kata weyo piny nikech kibiro tiwe mana ni dhi kwecho. Ok nanyal ka kena mimi gruba no mora dine bed nyan kenda dine bed nyan kenda e kit ngimana diko asela kata sok dikoro seni.
Koro kadhi kachacha ayudo kanyalo jiwora kuom weche mawuok e dho jowadwa kata mwapuonjore.
Wachni omiyo wasegero ne mama moro ot mane wayudo ka onge ot monyalo dakie to noonge ga adier. Mama no wagedone kwatimo atima rambe matin wan kendwa.
Nayudo puonj moro gi jokanyakla ni ng'ato kaloko hande to nyaka ochulre. Miyo ang'eyo ni nyaka chulra nikech awuotho kadhi wero. Ne wabet abeta mana wakia ohala mana wakonego watim. Kane waa kanyo, natiegra kendo nokonya maber.
Kendo bura be nyalo miyo ing'e kata gik matimore oko. Nikech ng'ato kaka an adak ayoka, an akia gimoro amora.
Nwabudha to Nyanam omiyo ita noyawre malach kanyo kendo handa nosemiyo abet dhano kaachiel gi masiche mane an go, koro giyudo kony kowuok kuoma. Nikech kanyo klasno ji duto koro dhiye Nyanam International kuom biro mondo parwa, mondo go kodwa mbaka, mondo wang'i yo ma wanyalo luwo kaka mond liete. Kik wabed chien nikech ne wasedong' ni wan mundo.
An ber maseneno, aneno ber mar hera.
So this video was put together by Josephine Chai, who was one of our Williams intern this summer. And there are three things that the video highlights that I want to talk about in terms of what we try to achieve at Nyanam. The first one is for the widows to be connected, and that is where they talk about leadership circles, which are widow-to-widow support groups. And here they offer each other spiritual, emotional, and also material support through various activities. The second part is the competence. The focus of our work is to build the skills of widows in various phases of their lives, be it economic. So one of them talked about business skills, and we do a lot of our training in partnership with the Women in the Window International. And then the third part is that both being in the social network that we help them create or that they create, being connected and having the skills, that these will enable them to be confident leaders. So leaders who can express themselves, can advocate for themselves, and can lead whatever changes that they see would be right for their lives in their community. So today I wanted to share about the solidarity we have experienced with widows and with all of you who work and support us in this year of crisis. And for us, solidarity has three aspects. The first part is that we have to recognize the needs that widows have. And the way we do this is that the widows themselves identify those needs, and we respect those needs and figure out how can we work with them to meet those needs. So the second part of our solidarity with them is responding to the needs. And then the third part is affirming their contribution to addressing these needs. So many of the widows we work with, even sometimes when we do trainings, they offer accommodation to each other, and that's a significant contribution into the work that we are doing. So I would like to invite you to join me in visiting a few widows in their homes. Towards the end of this year, we managed to visit a few elderly widows, and we know that throughout this year with the COVID crisis, we have been encouraged, and rightly so, to physical distance from each other. And that has been difficult for some of the widows, especially the elderly, who already have mobility issues and rely on other people coming into their space to provide the company and conversation. So in this picture, you can see Pastor Eunice, with whom we visited a few widows towards the end of the year. And when we visited the widows, this is just an example of one of the homes that we went to. We listened to the stories of their lives, just whatever they wanted to share. We were just open to do that. And home visits also enable us as an organization to have a deeper understanding of the environment or the home context where the widows come from. We also listened to the stories of how this pandemic has affected their lives. So meet Grace. Grace is an 84-year-old widow at Nyanam. Grace is so energetic. Sometimes I feel like she's more energetic than I am. And she's also very intelligent. So when we visited Grace shared so many stories with us. And she shared stories about the history of our country, the role women played in liberation of Kenya from colonial power. And it was stories that are important, but are not what our students get to learn in our curriculum. And one of the things we also discovered through visiting Grace is that she's a traditional herbalist who has actually been relatively effective, to the extent that even the local hospitals, doctors in the local hospitals know her expertise, and sometimes even refer patients from the hospitals back to her in the village because of the help she's able to offer with her knowledge of herbs and how herbs can help with the curing or treating some of the illnesses. So one of the things we're excited to do as an organization is to help Grace, as she rightfully said. She wanted to figure out how to pass on her knowledge and her wisdom of traditional medicine to the younger generation. Meet also Gladys. So Gladys is the lady in purple. She's 90 years old. Gladys is a new widow with us. While Grace has been with us since 2017, Gladys just joined us this year. And when we visited their home area, Gladys was not around, and she heard that we were coming and asked her grandchildren to put her in a flight from Nairobi to Siaya, where we were, because she felt she had to be in that meeting. And when she spoke, she's such a staunch advocate for women and women's rights. She's a trained social worker. And one of the things she told us she wants to contribute at her 90 years of age is just mentoring younger widows and showing them where, tips and skills she has used in her life, because she's been widowed for 50 years, in how to help raise their children and how to protect themselves from the various vulnerabilities that widows experience. Some of the widows talked to us about COVID-19 crisis and how it affected their lives. So I'm going to share a few quotes about 4 of them from these widows. So this is Herin, who is 70 years old. And Herin says, "We can't go to church. Public gatherings are prohibited. Some businesses have shut down and our means of livelihood badly affected. Older women like us are not allowed to attend church service because we are vulnerable to the virus." This is Paulina, who is 87 years old. Paulina says, "Children are not going to school, and even though the restrictions have been lifted a bit, only a few children have been allowed back to school, and that is so difficult." And this is Jennifer, who is 71 years old. "When going to the market, you must put on your mask. On reaching the market, people are sent away to avoid overcrowding. It's only in the market where we can get food to prepare for the family and other necessities." And this is Margaret, who is 68 years old. "Over the radio, we get news that COVID-19, it has killed many people. I have relatives and children in the city, and I worry that they might contract the virus. Those who were supporting my livelihood have lost their jobs. Prices for commodities have risen. And these quotes illustrate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic in the lives of these elderly widows, the spiritual aspect in terms of their inability to go to church and fellowship with others, the economic aspect, the educational aspect for the children. And earlier in the year, in February, before the pandemic started, we, together with Women in the Window International, we implemented a micro enterprise training for 94 widows, and this is Elizabeth and Grace, sharing about their village. So they did mapping of their villages and then trying to identify market opportunities in terms of what products are needed but are not available, and also locations, which are the strategic locations to situate their to sell their products from. And so because of the crisis, many of them were not able to, take up the businesses. And so the larger question now in terms of solidarity with them, we've seen the need, we saw the needs throughout the year, is how did we respond? So our response had 3 phases, and none of them was planned ahead of time. I think as everybody experienced the year, we were iterating and learning as we were going and figuring out what is the best thing to do given the situation. So our first response was in April, and in April, the response focused more on awareness about this virus and how the widows could protect themselves. So you can see this widow put a handout, a health education leaflet that we prepared in the local language and used pictures to facilitate, understanding for widows who cannot read, and also provided contacts, the government contacts that they could call in case they felt there was a case that needed the government to respond to. One of our widows also made face masks, and you can see this widow wearing her face mask. Our spiritual counselor, who is Pastor Nicodemus, also created a hope devotional. We called it a hope devotional, which was several Bible verses that talk about hope in a time of difficulty. And we put those together to help the women because now they couldn't fellowship in the church, and also the leadership circles, which normally meet once every week or once every 2 weeks, could not meet anymore. So they would use a devotional to fellowship with their children at their homes, and also to just give them encouragement through what was going on. And we did provide some seeds to help them kind of help avail food in their families. So most of them planted these seeds in their gardens. And during this first response, the 2 major things we observed and heard, what we observed and heard was that hunger was such a problem for many of these households, especially for the elderly women. And then the younger children, as you can see, some of them sitting here happy for what we had done at that day in terms of supporting their family, but also asked us, what about face masks for us as children? Because we are the ones who get sent to the market. So in our second response, we responded to the issue of hunger. And this was really a collaborative intervention. So one of the interns we had that this summer, Maxwell Song, who is also from Williams, he spearheaded a fundraising on GoFundMe, where several of you who are here also contributed. And through that fundraising and also support from Women in the Window, which again demonstrated the solidarity we have with the widows in terms of their contributions. So one of the widows made face masks, and we shipped 100 of these face masks to the US to Women in the Window, and Women in the Window used those face masks to also raise funds for these food relief response. And here we tried to offer, we offered food, a 1-month food kit for the widows, which had like 20 kilograms of maize, 4 kilograms of beans, 4 kilograms of sugar, and 2 liters of oil. And then we said, you do have, the vegetables in your garden from the first response that we did, that can, could help them, could reduce food insecurity for the time being. And as you can see here, this was such a joyful day. And this also happened, we did this during International Widows Day, which is June 23rd. So we offered these gifts as we celebrated the day with them. And so many of them were happy. We brought the food stuff in bulk, and they're the ones who did all the sharing amongst themselves. And their children also finally got the face mask they had earlier on asked. And as we did this, we still knew that the food relief was a short-term intervention, and we were still thinking about how can we do something that is more sustainable in terms of food security in their homes. And so we implemented the Kitchen Gardens project. Again, we did this with Women in the Window International. And we partnered with a local youth. This guy here, his name is Jotham. He's an agricultural expert. And he volunteered with us to train the women on how to prepare their seed beds so that they, and their nursery, and also how to transplant the seedlings from the nursery to their garden. And so we did this with all the 115 widows that we have at Nyanam. And the other thing that we also did at this time, because we knew even widows who are not with us in the organization were facing challenges. And so we gave each widow 2 extra packets of seeds and just said, find another widow who is not part of our organization and share with her the benefits of being in a leadership circle, being in a community of widows, and teach her what you've learned about kitchen gardens, and give her the seeds to also create her own garden in our own compound. So eventually we had 225 different gardens, around the villages. And here's one of the widows, Gladys, happily picking her vegetables from next to her garden. One of the things about this project is that many of the women have also been able to sell some of these vegetables for additional income. And we chose traditional seeds, traditional vegetables, which actually are more expensive in the market. So they were able to get even better income with that. And in addition to selling the vegetables, using them for their household needs, we also taught the widows how to add value to the vegetables to reduce wastage of food. So sometimes there is people would have vegetables in their gardens, and then the vegetables would grow old there. And then if they grow old, if they were not consumed, not all of it was consumed in the family or through sales, then whatever is left would grow old and then be plucked out for planting anew. But now we taught them how to add value to that. So this is Gladys again with her group. They've harvested some of their vegetables, and they even cooked some and ate together to just celebrate what they have done together as a group. And here is some of the widows aerating some of the vegetables that they have harvested. So this is a traditional way of preserving vegetables. So you steam them a little bit, and then you either sun dry them or you dry them under a shade. And after that, you can package them in an airtight bag or container, and they would be really good for a long time, almost even a year, according to our agricultural expert who was helping us with this project. So those are the 3 responses we did directly in terms of responding to this pandemic and standing in solidarity with the widows. But we also opened ourselves to other activities. So before I go to that, this is Grace again, showing some of the seeds she's harvested from her own vegetable. And this is sort of how the kitchen gardens are supposed to be sustainable, so that they would get the seeds for the next season right from their gardens. So this is during the home visit. Grace was so excited to show us how much seed she had harvested. And in addition to those 3 responses, we did open ourselves up to welcoming more widows into our family. So most of these groups of widows that we welcomed were groups that had already shown interest in our work. And so this group here joined us in February, but then as COVID came in, we stopped bringing in more groups. And towards the end of the year, when the government ease the restrictions, then we decided to meet other groups and welcome them in through, from wherever their locations are. So this year we had a total of 248 new widows join the organization. The other things we did this year, especially in terms of opening up ourselves to new programs. So widows' children are really at the heart of, the children are the heart of their mothers, and most of the things and everything they're doing, all revolves around providing for their children, educating their children, and wanting the best for their children. And early in the year, Vian, who is also with us in the call, visited us in Kenya, and she did help a lot with administrative things in terms of financial planning. But then she spent the weekends also meeting with the widows' children and just helping them brainstorm what activities did they want to do. And so the way we took this conversation forward is, again, towards the end of the year, as the restrictions for COVID eased up, some of the young, the youths came up to us and just said, we really want to do more. And so we organized a meeting where they talked about how do they want to approach the youth work. And so right now we do have a youth advisory council at Nyanam, which is led by 10 youths, and these 10 youths are responsible for designing and also implementing the various youth projects that we do at Nyanam. And as an organization, we help them through mentorship, availing some of the resources they need and also the finances they need to implement the projects that they're doing. I'm so thrilled by the mission they chose for themselves, which is to motivate youths to be role models in their society. And we just enjoyed the idea of the young people being the role models rather than looking up to other people as their role models, and just were thrilled at imagining on how that idea can shape up the choices they make, and where they go to with their lives. There's been a lot that has happened with young people during this COVID crisis, and we could talk about those later or if anyone is interested. And then we also spent this is some of the youth leaders. This is the guy here is Ayub, he's the chair, and this is Nora, the secretary of the Youth Council. And here we were in a strategy meeting with a local organization, Best Network, that was helping us come up with a long-term strategy. And the final thing we also did this year was to prepare for the following year. And just a few weeks ago, we had a Zoom training with Women in the Window, and Ivory and Kim walked us through inductive narrative Bible study, which is a Bible study methodology that enables the women to look at the word and get insight from the word of God on their own, as opposed to waiting for Sunday for preaching to happen for them to know. And it just gives them the space to know God through their own eyes, and through their own spiritual insights in that moment. And we use this time also to pilot our curriculum, which is one of the contributions we feel will be a major contribution we make towards empowerment of women, a voice of change, we call the curriculum. So we've been working on this for a number, just 2 years on and off, and this year we were able to finally have a way of implementing it, and we piloted it with a couple of widows. So again, if people are interested in knowing a lot more about Voice of Change, we can talk about it. Internally, we are so excited about it, and some of us here, including Elizabeth and Bethany, have already contributed to its development in one way or another. So in summary, this is where we were at 2019, and I won't go through the details. People can read. Probably this is hard to read, could be too small on your screen. And in 2020, just to highlight, 248 more widows joined Nyanam, and those widows are in 9 different leadership circles. The 225 kitchen gardens that we were able to implement, and the home visits, and the International Widows Day, plus the COVID relief. And also we've been able to reach 264 young people through the Youth Advisory Council. And In 2021, we are hopeful and excited that there will be more to do. So we estimate adding another 200 widows in Nyanam in next year. And these 200 widows are, again, a group of women who already are there, have already said they're interested. And so it's because we can't take everyone at once. So we just sort of roll over how we enroll them. So we enrolled 200, a bit over 200 this year and another 200 next year. And the Voice of Change curriculum, we will start implementing it in January. So we are really excited about it. When we piloted it, the women were so happy about it. It just evoked conversations that were really critical to their lives, but were not things that they have been addressing or talking about as much. So we're really excited about how these will, one, give them a space to critically analyze some of their lived experiences, and especially the negative ones that need resolution. And then the curriculum is also action oriented. So once the women highlight issues, then they identify one or two things that they want to intervene on, and they always have a span of time to intervene, do some projects, some basic projects that they could do to address some of the issues they raise. So for example, from the training we just had a few weeks ago, the intervention, the women who are there, we did it with 6 widows. The intervention they went back home with was to help 2 of them fence their homes and plant, live fence in terms of like some plants that we use for fencing homes. And that came up because the topic we were looking at in that training was from the Bible, the book of Ruth, chapter 1, where it's a story of 3 widows, and they're really at a crossroad in terms of deciding where their home is, an elderly widow and 2 younger widows. And so we just talked about the process of doing that and how homes are viewed and treated and how widows can make their homes more secure. So we're also excited about Bibles. So Bibles is one of the things that widows actually come to ask us for. The very few things they come in terms of like just intangible things that they say, we really need this, can you help us get this? And the Bible is one of them. And we're just so delighted that Women in the Window has been able to raise funds to help us provide 233 widows who are joining us next year with Bibles. So all of this work is community work. It's not just the Nyanam team on the ground, but it's also a lot of people around the world. So I do want to acknowledge our board. Teddy Onsero is our chair, Grace Kind, our secretary, and Hao Chinzu, our treasurer, and Emmy and Donna are in the board. And I just want to acknowledge their contributions and leadership for the work we're doing. And then we have several partners. Some of them I've mentioned along the way, and we are so grateful for all the work they do with us and the way they partner with us. And so many of you are donors. And I do want to give a shout out to some of our volunteers, especially Bethany, Elizabeth Duya, and Agnes Aaron. So I did talk a bit earlier on about how Bethany has been helping and really putting a lot of time into our work. Elizabeth and Agnes are women advocates in Kenya, and they have agreed to be, they've been taking issues. So if there are any legal issues that the widows are facing, they do that pro bono, and they write legal letters on behalf of the widows. They represent the widows if needed. So we're really grateful for them and all the IFs around the world who are supporting our work. And interns have been doing a lot of work with us, especially we started doing this work with the interns just this summer, and we had 6 of them, 5 from Williams College and 1 from Kenya. And even this January, as I mentioned earlier, we are having some of in Williams interns working with us for 3.5 weeks, and we are always really thrilled at the quality of their work and the contributions they make. So to that, this is the team on the ground. So this is Pastor Nicodemus, our spiritual counselor, and this is my mother, Rebecca, who helps with the agricultural projects. And then this is Pastor Eunice, who is also a spiritual counselor. And this is Beryl, who is the liaison with all of the leadership circles. Every communication with the women goes through her, and she knows the women much better than any other person in the organization. This is Clifford, who leads all of our operations, and then this is Moses, who leads our advocacy work. And these are some widows that we were having conversations with on that day when we took this picture. So with that, I just want to say thank you for visiting with us and seeing the homes of the widows and hearing the stories of how 2020, despite all the, how difficult a year it has been for all of us around the world, we are grateful that in one way we were able to stand in solidarity with the widows, and we thank each one of you for your contributions towards that.
Thanks so much, Jackie. I appreciate that. I just want to check with everyone. Was everyone able to see the picture of the team that Jackie was describing, second to last? I don't know if anybody can tell me if they were able to see that, because I didn't, but it might have been my internet.
Okay.
I think so.
I saw it.
You saw it. Okay, perfect. Excellent.
Bethany, have you seen it?
Great.
It's this one.
Yeah, Jackie, it must be just my internet giving trouble. Don't worry about it. I'll be able to see it later on. Okay, perfect. So yeah, Jackie, if you want to go ahead with the Q&A.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for listening. That is a summary of 2020 for us. And we've highlighted some of the things that we felt were major. We didn't talk about other things, but I do open it up now for questions and just interactions, comments.
It's wonderful what you're doing.
Thank you.
And Bethany looks really pretty.
With my video not working. Thank you. I do want to say, as Jackie did, while people think of questions, that this really wouldn't be possible without an unbelievable team. I don't know if anybody has visited our website lately, but it was completely transformed in the summer by one of our amazing summer interns from Williams. And our social media as well was completely transformed by another wonderful communications intern. We're very excited to be getting 6 more Williams interns who are going to be joining us for the month of January. So you can look forward to hearing from them. I see some of them here. Emma will be in communications and fundraising. Catherine will be working on some research, and Maria as well in research. I'm not sure who else is here. I think Zia is here, who's also in research. And then we have a couple others also in communications. So you may be hearing from them with some updates or some great posts on social media, and that really would not be possible without them, because the team on the ground is so busy with all the actual work they're doing that a lot of the communications happen with the support of interns or volunteers. So we're very grateful for all of them and for Williams College for supporting them in spending time with us. So I just wanted to give another little shout out to them. It's been wonderful to work with them.
How are your
sorry, go ahead.
How are your volunteers recruited, and how are they sort of interviewed and accepted?
That's a great question. Jackie, do you want me to take that?
Yes, please, Bethany.
So on the intern side specifically, we have a formal application process. So we get resumes and cover letters. This time for the people who were selected in January, it was very competitive. We had 70 people apply or so, and we could only take 6. So that it was a tough decision, and we interviewed all the ones who we did accept in the end, and so we're very excited to have them. That's for the internships. For the volunteers, often it's word of mouth. So either people who are currently with Nyanam will mention it to them, and then they also will have a chat with us about their interests and how they can help. We do have at least one volunteer who joined that way. Liz is on the call, and she joined that way. So there is also a place on the website that there is a form people can fill out and get in touch with us as well. But mostly it tends to be word of mouth, and then discussions with us about how they could best help. But yeah, COVID has been a really cool way to see how much we can do virtually. I know we already were working virtually since Kenya's quite far away, but it's really cool to see how much can be done without actually being in person.
And Jackie, I will say, this is Matt, and I'm sorry, this is like bedtime for me because most of my clients are in the rest of the world, and so I go to bed at weird hours, but by Eastern Standard Times. Jackie, what you're doing is incredible, and I have known you since, I don't know, whenever we knew each other, 2007, 2008. We've known each other for a long time. Frankly, for me, if you're behind this, and I've spoken with another donor, more significant donor, who has been to visit you, this is serious work. And I want to combat all colonialism, I mean, we can talk about the social stuff for a long time. But the reality is, a nonprofit at the end of the year needs money. And that's what we're doing here. And so I want to provide, I will, I think for Janet and me, maybe January, because we've committed stuff through the end of the year. But the work you're doing, it's inspiring. It's amazing. I tried to, I won't bring him in on this again, but I tried to show my dad, and he has no understanding, and that's fine. The work that you're doing is just so inspiring. And it's the work I've tried to do among homeless people. I've started a homeless shelter. I've done various things. It doesn't matter in my context, but in your context, this is what you're doing. Am I accurate on that? Like, this is what you're doing. So we got to step up and contribute.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to just step in and follow up on that because I've been one of the main people helping with fundraising. I do want to just give a big shout out to Jackie. I know that it's the hardest thing for us to fundraise for because it's not as, shall we say, sparkly as the projects is just the staff salaries. And Jackie, who, as everyone knows, has an unbelievable record, has researched with Harvard Partners in Health, has an amazing master's degree, is now working on a PhD. She essentially gives her time, not gives, we do have wonderful support from some of these donors, but that's just one of my big hopes is that I and all of us can help to reach our goals for the already minimal salary that Jackie accepts for this unbelievable work. Truly, she could have any job she wants in public health right now, and she's giving her life to this. There are only 2 paid staff members, both Jackie and one other. We're hoping in the long term to grow that, and we are working on bigger grants and stuff like that as well. But we do just so appreciate all of you. I know some very large donors are on this call right now, and we could not do it without you. So thank you so much. And if anybody is interested in participating in any more fundraising, please feel free to send me an email. We are working on some more 501c3 status is in process in the US. We are also working on Canadian tax deductible donations. But if anybody is interested in contributing, please just feel free to send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat. It's just bethany.dixon@nyanam.org. And I can give you a chance to do that. But yeah, thank you so much, Matt, for mentioning that. It's really world-changing work.
To make a donation, do we just go on the website?
Actually, right now, the best way is to get in touch with me because I can give you a couple different ways of direct donations. We've been having an issue with our PayPal situation, which is normally the easiest way via the website. So right now, if you just get in touch with me, I can let you know a couple different ways of direct transfers that are more efficient without losing a lot of fees to other things.
does the website give your email address, or are we just supposed to memorize?
Yes, yes, there is an email address there, and I'm also going to put it in the chat right now.
Okay.
Mm.
And also, did you tell us about the budget? Did I not remember that? Not being a numbers person, or is that something you could tell us about?
So our board is reviewing that, and so I'm waiting for their final approval before we share that. And if you reach out to Bethany, also Bethany can share more details on that. But we're waiting for our board to review to approve it before we share it.
Okay, thanks.
And I do want to also give really a big shout out to Women in the Window International. We do have a really special partnership with them, and actually for the coming year, they're doubling their support to Nyanam and just really enabling us to provide more trainings, because as I mentioned, for next year, we are having triple the widows we had. So this year we were reaching 115. Next year we'll be reaching 350 widows, and Women in the Window has been so flexible, so sensitive to the needs we have on the ground, and very supportive. So I do want to appreciate Kim and Ivory. They're both with us here on the call, and also shout out to Elizabeth Nielsen for just all the amazing support. She provides not just the financial support to the organization, but also just like mentorship support to me of just like, let's talk, what's going on? How can I pray with you? How can I, what can I share with you personally that will be encouraging, which I think is something that, all of us, and especially women in this type of work needs. So really appreciative of how the different ways in which all of you and the two ladies I've mentioned, Kim and Elizabeth, stand with me and with us as an organization. So very grateful.
I'd like to, I don't mean to sort of hog the questions, but I can't help thinking when I listen to this whole story, how wonderful it would be if someone, I mean, I know, Jackie, you have no time, nor does Bethany, but if someone who's a good writer could write a book about some of these women's stories, especially when you have this, oral historian, I don't know how old she is, but I would love to read a book that's just sort of captured their lives, and in terms of COVID, I get that we're all struggling with COVID, but there may be some very unique stories there. And I don't know if an intern can come along with, that skill set. Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah, you're right. I think that every time I talk with Bethany about everything going on, and even all of our partners that we get to engage with a lot. So, for example, recently when we did the piloting of our Voice of Change curriculum, and we were looking at the idea of home, I was reflecting with Kim and Ivory after that about just how the women shared so many things that were just eye-opening. In terms of what is the process they go through to decide what their home would be after their husband dies, and then once they decide their home, what is their experience in that place. And it was such insightful things. All of us as a team who were there felt like we were in a school, totally learning, and we love that, because that's what we want to see happen. We want them to teach us and show us how best we can support them. So there's definitely a lot of amazing stories, and to your point, Rai, I think one of these days we will have somebody who can help capture these stories more systematically, and we can share them more broadly through a book or something.
Right, or at least interview them so that at some length, so that material is available to someone who would eventually write about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. And one exciting thing about Jackie starting her PhD is that we are going to hopefully be doing some more data collection of that kind, stories really, or data in qualitative research. So hopefully in the longer term, that's going to be definitely something. And they're already starting to record some of the stories that the widows tell during the home visits and stuff. So we do have some audio recordings that we can end up transcribing and translating as well. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because we've actually talked about that for a few years. So maybe that can be one thing that we work on.
Yes. Yeah, so Bethany, I was just looking at some of the comments. Yeah, Ivory says, we look forward to an amazing time together as we work together to serve widows. We love you. Thank you so much, Ivory. We also love you so much. The women enjoyed seeing your face and hearing from you when we did the Zoom training with you and Kim just a few days ago. Yeah, so Bethany, I can see we are 3 minutes to the top of the hour. So if anyone has anything else they would like to hear more, this is the chance. And I think from me, it's just, I'm grateful for all of you coming in and joining the call.
Yes, thank you so much to everyone. It's really amazing to have this global community. As we mentioned earlier, we are recording this